Thank you for tuning in to Mocha Speaks. It's time for a real conversation. Speak your mind, speak your truth. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Mocha Speaks podcast. I am so excited because I'm here with Nabilah Parkes. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about you and who you are, because you actually made history when you got elected a few years ago.
Look, I'm the daughter of Bangladeshi immigrants. I was a twice elected state senator. Back in 2022 was when we made history. I became the first Muslim woman elected to the state Senate, the youngest woman elected to the state Senate, and also the first woman to give birth while serving in the state Senate. And so very proud of those achievements. And in my time in the state Senate, I fought to cut taxes for working families by taking away the sales tax on menstrual products and baby products and bringing back the school supply tax day holiday, going after insurance companies and their discriminatory practices of using zip codes and credit scores to determine, how much our insurance rates should be. But yeah, I've served there, and then I recently ran for lieutenant governor. Was not successful, but very proud of the campaign that we put together, and held our own on election night. And so, yeah, this past week I've been taking time with my family, and it's been really great.
So why don't you tell us a little bit more about what made you decide to switch gears and run for lieutenant governor after being successful in your previous position?
Yeah, well, I wanted to, continue to serve Georgians, and I chose to, run for lieutenant governor to serve the whole state so that we could elect a lieutenant governor that fought for a working class agenda. Right now, the Senate is in a minority, so it's very hard to pass bills and block bad bills. Sometimes we are successful, but not at the rate that we should be, right? Passing good legislation. And so this was an opportunity to serve Georgians at a higher level where we can shape the agenda. We could have control of that calendar of introducing bills that would actually help people. And so, I come from, a modest background of working class parents. I have 3 children. I know that the cost of living is super high. I know childcare costs are up the roof. Health insurance is unaffordable. I'm a renter. Rent is really high. I mean, all these things are just crushing Georgians today. And, I ran to be a fighter and a voice for, so many working families across the state. And, that's why I chose to run, because I want to help people.
I noticed that when you first decided to run, there was some controversy surrounding an AI generated political ad. How do you believe emerging technologies are changing the landscape of politics?
Unfortunately, so the guy that won the Republican nomination, his name is Senator Greg Dolezal, and the AJC actually wrote a piece about his hate campaign where he came after the Muslim community really hard, saying that he wanted a Sharia law ban, basically calling us terrorists. And he created this AI video that was just so disgusting and appalling, and having depicted Muslims as suicide bombers exploding. It was beyond the pale. That was actually another reason why I chose to run, was because this guy has a real shot to becoming the next lieutenant governor. And I knew that, even though he was in a 6-way primary on his end, I was like, he's going to make it out of his primary. And sure enough, he did. And so people like him cannot be in positions of power. They run on division, they run on hate, and they do not see us as equal people. We can't afford to have leaders like that. We just can't. And especially in such a diversifying state, or any state. But yeah, AI is taking off on campaigns, and people are making crazy videos, and it definitely needs to be regulated.
I saw recently where Governor Kemp called us redistricting.
Well, first of all, it's a huge honor to serve and to represent your community. And so, going to the Capitol every day, full of excitement to, help people. But I will say it is very frustrating to go to a job every day where Republicans have a trifecta control. They have control of the Senate, they control the House. We have a Republican governor. We have basically a Republican Supreme Court. And it's hard to take on the Republicans when they control everything. So, we saw some horrible bills come through the state Senate coming after immigrant communities, gun laws, women. I mean, the whole shebang. And even though, like, you get up there and you're fighting and you give, strong speeches, and as you should speak up. It's at the end of the day, like, it takes 29 legislators to pass legislation. In the Senate, they have 33 Republicans. So they always had the numbers. It was very, very rare that, we might be able to stop something. But it became the norm that if they introduced something, we were expecting it to pass, and then hopefully the House would be able to stop it. Now, they always say the Senate, there's 56 senators, it's a more deliberate body. I fear that that notion has switched, and the House has become the deliberate body with 180 members, because they've been able to pause, stop on legislation in ways the Senate has not. In fact, the Senate has become very extreme. A lot of MAGA Republicans are now occupying the state Senate. Our lieutenant governor was a fake elector, Burt Jones. And so there's already a tone in how, what type of leadership the Senate is going to have. So, look, I was very proud to introduce legislation. Sometimes the Republicans would steal my legislation. They actually stole my legislation to end the sales tax on menstrual products. They took my legislation to bring back the school supply tax day holiday. So, I mean, that was great. But again, that wasn't like a priority for them. I fear that, like, in the Senate, there aren't a lot of working class like, voices, like people who grew up in like normal households that, like, regular Georgians, have grown up in. And I don't feel like they have a sense of urgency of, like, these are the real problems that people are facing. Rather, they're passing legislation to, help their buddies or help, their MAGA agenda. But I'm hopeful that within this year and the next few years that we'll be able to flip the House and flip the Senate, and things will change.
What advice do you give to the people that is out here listening? Like, what can we do? Is there anything that we can do to help outside of voting? That's something we always say, vote, vote, vote.
Well, like, look, I think that this special session was called to do redistricting, right? And definitely scared off, House Republicans, and they're tabling doing redistricting during this special session. And so I think that was something that they saw as, Democrats were furious about, as it was an issue that would be a problem for them in November. Now, I'm not convinced that they're not going to bring back another special session after the elections happen. Hopefully, they do not. And we'll just have to see. They're always up to some shenanigans. But I feel like using your voice, showing up, protesting, voting, does make a difference. And you can't, especially in these statewide elections, you can't gerrymander a state, right? I mean, like a statewide position. So we have a real opportunity to finally have a Democratic governor that we haven't had in over 2 decades with Keisha Lance Bottoms. We have the ability to flip so many of these, seats, down the ballot, from lieutenant governor, SOS, attorney general. Those are huge changes. Those will make a measurable difference in people's lives. And I think this is our biggest opportunity to do that in November. So honestly, just showing up and voting in November would be the biggest thing that we can do during these midterm elections, because we have the blue wave and we need to capitalize it.
Although you didn't win the Democratic nomination for lieutenant governor, your campaign earned more than 400,000 votes and built a strong coalition. What are you most proud of from that campaign, and what surprised you the most?
I was surprised. I'm so thankful of so many people across the state that supported my campaign, from North Georgia to Metro Atlanta to South Georgia, from the coast. I had a lot of folks come together to support this race. I had a 2-month race for the primary, so I was only in the race for 2 months. And my opponent, he was in it for a year, but I was able to get 40%, and he was, he had 41%. So that was during the primary election day. And I would say, our campaign had a lot of momentum. And I would say in the runoff, I would say some of the endorsements that went not my way, but his way, surprised me. To be frank, I thought it was a little heavy-handed. So, but I still continue to fight, and, We messaged to our communities across the state, to come back out. And, got 45% of the vote. I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that 45% of the state, voted for our message, voted for our campaign, voted for me to be the next lieutenant governor. And though I didn't win, I'm behind Senator Josh McLaurin for his lieutenant governor's race. And, I called him and exchanged text messages and wished him luck and, told him that I'm here to be helpful. So yeah, this was a very memorable experience. And, I've made really, great friendships with, District Attorney Fonnie Willis. Mayor Shirley Franklin has been such a great mentor. I had coffee with her actually on Father's Day morning, where she was just, giving me advice. And Congressman Hank Johnson also supported me, and he was very kind and gracious. And then also Commissioner Ted Terry, who I've known for a very long time, he supported my race too. So, it's like you grow a little community, when you run for office. I'm sure you know. And some of these people you become your friends for a very long time, and I'm very thankful for those experiences.
Okay, so healthcare, Medicaid expansion, reproductive freedom, and maternal health were central parts of your platform. What specific policy changes do you believe Georgia should prioritize right now?
So we absolutely have the ability to expand Medicaid. We're one of 10 states that have yet to do so. Absolutely, if we get a Democratic governor, that's something we should push for. We have the numbers in the state Senate because we have rural Republicans who desperately need Medicaid expansion because their hospitals are closing, right? So when your hospitals close, what happens? Businesses leave. People don't want to come work there anymore. Your population begins to decimate. That's why they have high maternal mortality rates. And so that is something that I really truly believe we can pass next year. That is introduced, and I think it'll make a huge differences in people's lives. So that would be first and foremost a big priority.
Okay. So your campaign, and I thought this was kind of cool, but your campaign focused on kitchen table issues. What concerns were Georgia families raising the most when you were out traveling, listening to Georgians knocking on doors, trying to find out what matters most to you? We know healthcare is on the top of the line, and Athens Clarke County is dealing with housing, but you had more territory that you covered where you could collect data and information to say what really matters to you. So what have you been hearing while you were out on the campaign?
I would say that people feel buried under rising cost, right? They, you go, you've been going to your same job, making the same pay, and then but the cost of everything is going higher and higher and higher, and it's been harder to keep up. I would say that first and foremost was the biggest thing I kept hearing over and over again. There's certainly things that we can do in the state legislature to help families that are struggling, whether that's, raising the minimum wage, whether that is, figuring out how we pay for more childcare in the state, whether that's making sure that our public schools are fully funded, whether that's making sure that we actually cut taxes for working families and not just a bunch of millionaires and corporations. And so that's why having this Democratic ticket succeed is so fundamental for being able to have transformational change in so many in the lives of so many working people. I mean, working people make up the majority of the state. I mean, and instead the Republicans lead as if the corporations and the millionaires and the billionaires are the ones that they should be prioritizing, or the top 1%. And so, yeah, so those were some of the issues that I heard. Also being able to afford a home, being able to afford a rent. Those are also issues that I heard. Republicans have tried to pass property tax bills that would cut, property taxes. And I recognize that property taxes are high, but they're doing it on the backs of working people by raising sales taxes. And trust me, we don't need to pay more for the things that we're buying. So that there's ways to do that, right? There's ways to we give out billions of dollars in subsidies to data centers and insurance companies that shouldn't be getting that money. Use that money to cut property taxes. Use that money to cut property taxes for renters and homeowners. So yeah, I look, these are a lot of the issues that I heard, and there's solutions out there that can definitely be passed to help people.
I have to ask you what's next because you're a fireball. You have over 1,000 people that voted for you. You're one of the youngest, 32 years old. Like you said, There's
older now. I'm
there's
36 now, but you can call me 32. That's fine.
at the time when you first got elected, you were
Oh yeah, 32.
32.
Yeah.
And you were the youngest, one of the
Yes.
youngest. And
Hmm.
so I know this has to be a journey. Like you've learned a lot and you've made a difference. And there's other women out here that's looking and seeing you and your mother, you're holding it down as a mother and serving. So what is next?
Well, that is something that I'll be figuring out. It's been about a week-ish since the election, so I've just been spending a lot of time with my kids that, frankly, I haven't been able to because, you're out on the campaign trail, you're super busy, so just, coming back down to earth, hanging out with my family has been so great. But I will also say that I'm someone that wants to make a difference and help people, and I've done that in various ways, in various capacities. And so I will continue to do that. And what that looks like, I'm not exactly sure yet, but rest assured, I will continue to be a fireball and continue to help people because people need it. People need help. And, my mom taught me to be a helper. So I will always help people.
What's one advice you would give to a woman that's listening where they told you can't do it all because you've done it. You've done it. You've been a mother. I'm still I'm surprised. I didn't know that no other woman has actually been pregnant and had a baby while serving, and
Oh, yeah.
that is major. So how do you balance it all, and what advice would you give to somebody that's listening that might be thinking about running or might be thinking about getting involved into politics? How did you balance it, and just give some advice?
I mean, I'll be very candid and honest here. Like, I don't know if I actually figured out how to balance things. I mean, I think for me, choosing the right partner to marry made the biggest difference. I mean, having a supportive spouse. Because I have seen time and time again with different politicians, different women, where their spouse wasn't the most supportive, right? Because you're leaving for meetings and going to galas and conferences. But my husband really held it down with the kids and took care of them and really believed in me and continues to believe in me. And so I would say, like, number one, choose the right man. Okay. So,
Ding, ding,
uh,
ding.
um, but also, like, it is hard to have it all, right? So I actually, when I was on the campaign trail, I would tell people, like, it made me realize why there weren't more women with young children in higher positions of power, because it
Mhm.
is very difficult to balance, taking care of your kids and also doing a statewide campaign. Like, a lot of the times for men, if they have children, their wife holds it down, and it's like more of a traditional view sense of how things should be run, right? It's very uncommon for someone like myself to run for office with like a 2-year-old, right? And but I will say that, like, I did build a core group of people that were like my village. Like, my mom held it down for me. If I needed to, she needed to watch him overnight, she would. My friends were there for me if I needed advice, if I needed a vent. So making sure you don't do this alone, making sure that you have people around you that you trust, that will be your thought partners, that will be your village, that will, take care of your kid if you need them to. I think those are important factors to consider. And, some days feel very hard, but, if you put one foot in front of the other and just remember your why, why you're doing this. And then also, a lot of people will tell you no. And that's just the nature of the game. But as long as you are not the first person that tells yourself no, then you're already winning. Because a lot of people get defeated very
Yeah,
easily. So you just got to keep your head up.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Is there anything else you want the listeners to know?
Um, you know, I will say, look, guys, if we're not at the table, they put us on the menu. So we just gotta go out and vote. And because I'm sick and tired of being on the menu, especially now that I have kids, we gotta fight back, right? And we have been. We're getting so close. We are almost there to living in a state that actually values our lives and values women and children and working families. I'm excited about the future ahead. And so let's go fight win.
That's right. Well, thank you for taking out time out of your busy day and doing this interview. And I really appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck.